Maru actually beat Serral in was to knock him out of one of the EU regionals. And I remember that was a big one too, because I'm pretty sure it was that specific match that qualified you into a guaranteed spot in the tournament. And it ended up with this situation where Serral had to play through an open bracket. And we were like, wait, what? No, somebody hit the wrong button on the Matrix. This is not right. This isn't supposed to happen. But Big Gabe came in. I remember that Game 5 so clearly. It was, I want to say it was on 2000 Atmos. It was a Hellbat Marauder push-off, 3 CCs. He caught 3 of his opponent's queens with the concussive shells Marauders. They were stranded at the third base. And from there, he just kind of snowballed, kept shoving Hellbats, Marauders at his opponent. And it was a stunning upset. Let's see if HeroMarine can channel some of that magic once again, because we have him spawning down in the bottom left for Mao Sports. It is HeroMarine.
And his opponent up here in the top right-hand side of the map, most people's undisputed GOAT of StarCraft 2. It is Basilisk's Serral.
And you know he wants to get this World Championship back. You know, last year, yeah, he got to the Grand Finals, but he cannot have been happy with how that ended. He is definitely not going to be happy with anything short of a championship this time.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, he's not necessarily going to be the saddest about facing Gabe in this first round, because there were definitely some potential opponents and stuff. I think Bjorn would have been also like a pretty tough match and everything. I actually think Lambo has some pretty cool upset potential as well against Serral, and like the pass as well as just ZVZ being a kind of funky matchup sometimes. And even, I think Estrella probably would have been like an okay matchup for Serral, but I do think Gabe is one of the matchups that, again, just historically, Serral has typically had HeroMarine's number. Even the match that you were talking about, that was 3 years ago, and like 3 years and a month ago now, and it's the last time that Gabe managed to win a series against Serral. This is still going to be a very tough match for Gabe.
Oh, it's going to be an extremely tough one, but I got to mention a couple of things. One, best of 3. You don't have to come out with 3 different map wins. You can squeeze 2 in. Ultralove is the map. This is an incredibly strong 8 racks map. And that is something that Big Gabe at HeroMarine loves to do.
Have we been seeing a lot of 8 racks in TVZ lately?
Have we? I haven't been keeping track.
I haven't noticed.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of 8 racks in TVZ, and it's because it is so powerful with the, you know, the Baneling a little bit lower on HP. Serral will morph that Spore Crawler. He is going to get the save on the drone. You could see he was even trying to see if he could maybe get away with not morphing it, but he plays it safe and manages to keep everything alive. I mean, I know that back in the day that used to be a given, but players have gotten so good with their Reapers. It is not a given anymore that you don't lose a Ling, you don't lose a drone.
Yeah, it definitely can happen here and there. And I guess to go back to and add to your list, I think Serral, I do believe right now, is one of the most beatable forms of Serral we've seen in the last like 5 or 6 years at this point. I think that Serral has shown some vulnerability in some of those things like RSL and all, like, I think just some of the recent events, Serral has not done quite as well. Maybe not RSL. That's not the correct tournament that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny that you say he's vulnerable because he lost 4-5 at Stars Agora to Clem.
Yeah.
And he came 8th,
How did his
top
Dallas
8th
go?
At Dallas, yeah, losing 2-3 to Classic.
I would say top 8 for Serral. Our expectations of Serral, that was an upset.
It absolutely was, but that's the caliber of player we have.
Yes.
It is an upset when he doesn't win that massive tournament, you know? Not even getting top 2. We expect out of him at this point. That's a poor result, quote unquote, for Serral. Obviously still an amazing result. But we got to talk about this because we have a perfect transition from that last series into this one. We've got Gabe opening the series with a Hellbat Marauder. Serral has opened up with a Roach Warren. This is very good on paper for the Finnish Phenom, but he still needs to see it coming.
Yeah, and this is something that we don't really see a lot of Terrans do as much these days, so I am so interested to see when Serral's going to catch wind of this. right now, Serral's just kind of forcing out more roaches. He's adding on a couple more drones here or there. He definitely senses something is going to be coming that he has to have some defenses for, because that is like a fair number of roaches he's already made. And even though the Overlord doesn't make its way into the main base, it doesn't actually get the scout off. Is he actually going to be prepared for this?
Yeah, what makes this still so dangerous for Serral is that if you don't see it coming, you're just building those safety roaches. And as long as you're careful, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. But these queens, I talked about it before, the 3 queens getting separated at the third base. This is looking a little bit scary for Serral, but he will pull back there. He's not going to get marooned. This will be his first look at this attack. These roaches are going to try and bunch up around this base. Hellions are going to morph immediately into those Hellbats. Queens not able to target down the medevac right away. Already a lot of damage coming in from Big Gabe, and he has got a lot of firepower here.
Yeah, a lot of the Hellbats are starting to fall on that bottom right-hand side. The north side Hellbats are managing to survive. Drones being pulled off the line and are getting roasted and toasted. But at the end of the day, Serral is going to be able to push this back and still does maintain a slight drone lead. Was that too much damage, Dave?
Nope. No, I think that was good damage for Big Gabe. Don't get me wrong. But that was a relatively strongly committed push. Is it a nice push for Big Gabe? Does it put him in a good position? I would say probably yes, as long as he keeps these units alive. But did it give him a winning position? Not necessarily. And this is really interesting. He started up, Stim canceled it, and is now throwing down 2 more factories. Oh, my man loves his mech, doesn't he?
Okay, it is going to, in fact, be mech, like you were saying, and I think as our wonderful observer Insano was actually showing us, there's no upgrades right now for Serral, no Zergling speed or anything else. We do have Carapace now starting on up over here. A Slothling being slowed even more by Custom Shells. Not something you see all that often, but this is going to be an important thing for Serral to eventually scout, because he missed the scout on the initial attack and everything, but now coming in with the factories.
Can we get a look at Serral's vision of HeroMarine's main base? I want to see if he's got any idea. Okay, he has seen nothing. I wanted to make sure. So HeroMarine maybe just kind of changed his mind about going into Stim, said, you know what, I actually do want Battle Mech behind this. I feel good about that. Something we got to point out, very different from the series from before, as that is a big scout for Serral. Very, very crucial scout. Gets to see the timing of the 4th and 5th factory as well. Hold that thought. Hellion run by at the third base.
Yeah, not that many roaches over here either. There's only 4 of them, but they do manage to do enough body blocking. An interesting decision for HeroMarine to try and go down the ramp instead of going after the drones that looked like they were still pretty vulnerable.
No, they didn't look like it. Those drones were on a frying pan with HeroMarine's hand on the button. Those drones were all but roasted. And for yeah, wow, that was a... maybe he thought that Serral was going to drop down a clutch Evo chamber block. Lambo did that a bunch. You know what? Lambo might have actually made him a little gun shy to go in there.
Yeah, maybe.
That's possible.
Well, either way, HeroMarine doesn't really get the damage done with that kind of little run by. Ends up losing a few Hellions and a solid defense there for Serral as he gets his own tech up. Is starting to add on even more roaches as that Carapace upgrade is finishing up. Burrow is also finishing along with Tunneling Claws. That is going to be a recipe for disaster if HeroMarine is caught off guard by that, because we have seen in the past how good Serral is with Burrow roaches.
Not just that, this is a game where, unlike that series versus Lambo, he doesn't have speed Banshees. He doesn't have an easy mobile answer to these units that are going to be everywhere. We are going to see an attack coming in here. Serral getting in from 2 angles, getting on top of the tanks on the bottom side, able to take 1 down. Second one going to be biled down. A third one in the mineral line will survive for a while to get a lot of DPS here, and that will allow HeroMarine to get those 2 more crucial tanks in to secure the position. But that was already a little bit of a bloody nose on HeroMarine there. And Serral is just starting with this aggression.
Yeah, he did lose a lot of his roaches, so he does need a little bit of extra time to kind of pull back. And
he has Burrow, right?
He has Burrow, and he is about to finish up Tunneling Claws, so I think that's maybe what he's waiting on right now.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be the big window of opportunity. Nice reaction there from HeroMarine. Gets the medevac out there in time. But here we go. He comes in for round number 2. Bottom side and north side. Both are going to be coming on in. Tunneling Claw roaches, though, not revealed by that sensor tower.
No, they are not. He doesn't see it. The Tunneling Claws roaches are coming. They are coming. It is Jaws right now. And he is about to clamp down on the SCV lines of HeroMarine.
Yeah, he doesn't even have to attack in with that north side force right now because he knows he's just getting so much damage done. Already 13 workers and still continuing to fall. HeroMarine falling below 60 at this point. This is I mean, the worker counts really do just show the difference of 82 versus 60 workers right now.
Yeah, and this is an issue. He doesn't have scan energy all the time. Now Serral goes in, finds the exposed tanks on the front line, gets two of them very quickly. Ling's going to get into the middle line at the third. No repair on that siege tank. It goes down. SCVs are falling en masse. This is a great attack from Serral. He punches his opponent a couple times, knocks him off balance, and throws him through the ceiling.
And there it is. GG gets called, and Serral is going to take the first game against Big Gabe. Big Gabe may be the massive gargantuan Gabe that we know, but it is in fact still Serral that is the Goliath that has to be toppled here. And he showed exactly why. He, despite not having a lot of like scouting against the early Hellbat, Marauder aggression, everything, still managed to defend that well enough, got the scout out on mech, and just had such a great reaction for it.
Yeah, I mean, the safety roaches, they did their job. They kept him safe. Yeah, he took some damage. Yeah, it was, you know, not ideal, but HeroMarine kind of waffled a little bit with his transition decision. He decided, after committing to Stim being built for a while, then to go into mech. Might have been a mind game, we don't know, because there was no Overlord, so you can't really confirm. But regardless, it is Serral who makes that look unbelievably easy. And I can tell you, playing against Cyclones as much as I have, it's not that easy. That's just how good Unisatala is.
It really is. It's tough. It's so tough now to come back after that second game or that first game into the second match. Maybe you could try and like steer away from mech and just try and mix it up or something a little bit. I think what's tough for me right now, Steadfast, is that we're going into game number 2, and I feel like game number 1 was, unless you just outright kill Serral or something with that early attack, that was like a pretty good place to move into a later stage of the game. And Serral still looks so good and dominant. If HeroMarine can't find like an early advantage in game number 2, like how on earth are you supposed to beat Serral moving to that mid game?
Well, that's the
yeah
$700,000 question, isn't it?
That is true.
We had it answered last year by Lisan Al Gaib, the Frenchman, the Clem that was promised. But I mean, will we see that again this year? Too early to tell. For now, we have this man down 1-0 in the series. Can he bring it back, force that game 3 against Goliath? It is mousesports HeroMarine.
And down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, with an interestingly dropping heart rate. It was 94 a second ago, and now it's 86. We have Basilisk Serral. Just getting more calmer and calmer by the second, by the minute. This man already feels victory in his clutches.
Yeah, you know, I can read into this. I can read into this. So he was out of a game of StarCraft for moments there, getting nearly 2 minutes without being in a video game, and he started to get a little anxious. Got all the way up to 95 or something.
Yeah,
but
you know, my parents would say that would be like an addiction or a problem or something, but since Serral is winning so much money, my parents would actually be like, no, it's a profession.
Just gonna leave that one alone.
Just gonna leave my Asian parents, you know, they're asleep right now, so.
Shout out to the Pariks, yeah. We are gonna be seeing a command center first as we just roll right past that. Like this will roll HeroMarine into the mid game with a nice economic boon.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance of that happening without any major interruptions, at least for the time being. But I will say, despite that, we have definitely been seeing more and more Zerg players show that they're not afraid to go super aggressive with those Roach Ravager all-ins and everything. So I'm actually so curious if that is something that Serral is kind of considering doing either this game, or if it went to a game 3, he would consider doing something like that, because he has just been mixing in more and more of those.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Zerg players really bust out those nasty strats as we get into the tournament, really try and fool some of these Terran players. We do see quite an interesting build right here out of Serral, or pardon me, out of HeroMarine. It is command center first into gas, into barracks gas, into Marine, then Reaper, and a turbo fast 3rd CC. If we were talking about some kind of early Roach push, and I'm talking real early, like stuff we legitimately don't see anymore.
Yeah.
HeroMarine is going to have a heck of a time dealing with it. But that's the beauty of it. We don't see stuff like the 12-pull Roach Ravager anymore. We don't see, you know, the 9 Roach build out of Lambo, really. It's just not a thing these days. But HeroMarine, as a result of this, he is going to have a flying economy and a pretty strong set of Marine pushes.
Yeah, what is Serral up to? He mined the 100 gas. And
he's just cutting it because he knows that he doesn't need it.
Yeah, okay. Just got that gas banked up for a rainy day when he decides that he, in fact, wants it. And, I mean, he definitely does not need it against the opening that HeroMarine is going for. There's nothing to be afraid of for a little bit. Looks like First Blood being given there to HeroMarine as well. But Roach Warren being added on around, like, 330 or so. So, what do you make of this?
Well, this is actually very similar to what he did in the previous game. This is a really interesting little setup from Serral here because he gives himself the ability to start Ling speed if he so desires, but he doesn't have to go for it. In theory, he could even build a quick layer if he wanted to. Now, we're not going to see that just yet, but this might legitimately be a setup for later stages in the tournament. Some kind of weird Ling Nidus play, something like that. Here's the beauty of what I just said. If it doesn't come to pass, people will forget this. If it does, I look like a genius, man.
Clip it, guys, and make sure to post it regardless of the results.
No, wait.
We do have, just looks like more drones being added on for Serral, so he is not looking to bust out a ton of early roaches or anything with the roach warren that finished up, adds on his lair and says, no, I'm actually pretty safe right now. The Reaper is only just now going to be making its way across the map, and there's not even speedlings or anything really to slow this down. It's just going to be queens to try and push this Reaper back, which is not enough to kill a creep tumor.
Yeah, no, that's going to be just fine. Now, Serral did kind of sit on a fair amount of gas before and even minerals, before he started up that layer. So maybe a small, very small little macro misstep there from Serral, kind of uncommon. But more so than anything, the focus right now is the fact that this has been a pretty middle-of-the-road build from Serral, and HeroMarine has gotten away with an extraordinary amount of greed, and it is really setting up well into the mid-game. He is going to have that single engineering bay. This is a neat little play. Lifted 3rd command center. It's still going to land faster than normal because it was so fast. I really like how this is turning out so far for HeroMarine, but he is still not at a victory point yet.
Yeah, I think this is actually leading a little bit into my question earlier. How does Gabe manage to make game number 2 look a little bit better if he doesn't open up with some kind of advantage? And it definitely feels like he's found his little economic advantage they can move into the game with.
Well, you know, you teed it up perfectly, Rubby. He's going straight into the 8 racks here.
Yep.
This, I'm not 100% sure on the timings, but this feels like one of the fastest 6th, 7th, and 8th barracks I think I've ever seen at this level. It's going to hit with +1, not the regular 1-1 we're used to. Serral does start up an infestation pit, a baneling nest, a 2nd evo chamber, a 4th base. These are all things that are not a bridge too far, but he is going to have to be very, very mindful that he doesn't get caught out by what is going to be a really strong, sustained push, because there's just going to be so many Marines marching across the map.
There really are, and you can already see the HeroMarine is kind of posturing at the edge of creep, looking to try and snipe off a couple of creep tumors. The queens have already pulled back at this point. So
this build is nuts.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the timer, and I do not believe my eyes right now. This is insanity out of HeroMarine.
This is scary. This is definitely very scary. Ooh, okay, Overseer's not going to catch a wind of these Marines. The double medevac drop of them are going to be heading down to the south side, and they should find a very vulnerable hatchery over here. Baneling has finished up only very recently. I don't think any Banelings are morphed in, and hatchery is just going to end up falling. That is already a big W for a big Gabe.
Huge W for Big Gabe. And behind this, Serral starts up his hive. He fires up a couple more drones. He doesn't yet know what is coming behind this. Overseer is going to try and scout in and should eventually see these 3 additional barracks, but this is already so uncomfortable. Now, the interesting thing about this is, does HeroMarine try to transition out of this, or does he just go for the kill? I feel like if he played macro out of this, it'd be really strong, but look at the army supply right now.
Yeah.
He's already up 30 army supply against a player going Roach Ravager, and it's such a potent build. Why would you not try and kill Serral if you can?
Yeah, it's just so scary though, because after you sniped out the 4th, like you were saying, Serral is just investing more into his army, is getting up the hive tech. He's basically just saying, I'm going to make my army the strongest possible. So do you really attack into someone that is saying, all of my resources are going into having a scarier army, not an economy, an army?
I mean, it's the build. It looks like he wants to commit to it. Big Gabe does eat a bile on 3 of his medevacs, but he gets the Marines through. Bailey's getting caught by the roaches. Siege tank will get sniped down very quickly. It was an attempted flank from Serral. Actually looks like he maybe wanted to cut off some reinforcements, but things getting a little bit funky there. Queen is going to get caught out here. A lot of creep already getting cleaned up. I cannot imagine a world where Serral has faced this exact push before.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very difficult for him. He's going to have to react on the fly a little bit here. Creep is actually not fully cleaned up over here, so maybe this is going to be Serral's best opportunity, but he decides, no, I cannot defend this location again. Has to back up, pulls back in. Bailey's getting caught behind the roaches and ravagers yet again, but the hatchery ends up falling, and Serral is dipping further and further down in supply, and that's with roaches also a part of this.
That it is. The Marine count is so damn high. Corrosive Biles, though, he's got to get out of those. They are landing home pretty hard. That was a lot of Marines that just fell. Medevacs, there's still a lot of them, but they're not super high on juice. Bailing's trying to roll in. They do connect with some of these units. Siege tanks were not sieged up, and just like that, the army gets dissolved on creep, and HeroMarine is forced away. He got too impatient, and he loses so much of his momentum.
This is so complicated now because he managed to snipe off the 4th base of Serral twice. He killed off a lot of the army supply, but he does not have an armory finish up. He doesn't have 2-2 upgrades on the way. He doesn't have a lot of the other transitionary stuff you need. So he's kind of forced to continue finding some waves of aggression here, but losing medevacs to some of these corrosive biles, losing even more medevacs to the corrosive biles as he does try and dive in on top of these ravagers. But Serral looks like he's taking better and better and better fights as time goes on.
He absolutely is. Even if he loses this 4th base for now the 3rd time, I just wonder at what could have been. This is going to be a nice interception on the reinforcements here by Serral. He's got a hive done. He started up Adrenal Glands. He's got the upgrade lead, picking off Marines. He lost like, what, 3 lings there and got 4 or 5 Marines, 6 Marines. We are going to be seeing HeroMarine not committing hard in on that 4th base just yet. Going to try and regain some of the momentum that he had. But this, if this goes on to be a Serral victory, this is going to look, we're going to look back at this as one of the missed opportunities of this tournament.
No, it definitely is if that ends up being the case. But, I mean, this is just, again, it's Serral. It's what happens when a lot of people face him, is that Serral can be at a bit of a deficit sometimes in the early game stages, and he finds ways to turn things around sometimes. But Gabe is going to be really still just trying to find some opportunity to try and find an advantage again.
Yeah, I mean, he started up his 2-2. He's pumping double factory tank now. He is still committing on just 3 bases, even harder than before. Vipers are going to be hitting the field, though. Adrenal Glands is done. +2 melees getting close to completing. Very good positioning right there from Serral onto the bottom side. Not going to fall victim to that technically really just double drop. And even now, +3 Carapace fired up. This is looking so good for Serral.
And now it's like an anti-timing because 1-1 is still there for HeroMarine. 2-2 is not done yet for him. 2-2 just finished up for Serral. So Serral is actually going to be fighting this army with the upgraded advantage because HeroMarine just has to go, go, go. Serral is maybe considering that he was going to evacuate, goes for a little bit of engagement there, but says, no, I don't actually need that hatchery, even though I've lost many hatcheries this game. I'm actually okay with waiting things out, making sure my Vipers have the energy. Isn't going to lose this hatchery, though. Gets very close, but does manage to survive. Needs some transfuses on that, but this is it. If Serral could just clean up this army with the Vipers and the Blinding Clouds, he is going to be golden.
Yeah, but that's a deep, deep army right here. HeroMarine is being a lot more cautious than he was. He's not going too far onto creep just yet, but Serral is going to look to pull the trigger here. 2-2 just not done. Blinding Clouds on 2 of the tanks. 3rd one getting biled from the high ground. It goes down. The reinforcements of HeroMarine are not in time to turn the fight. 2-2 finishes up just a little late. The reinforcements show up a little late. And it is just a day late and a dollar short, to quote the great Kevin Rotterdam van der Kooi.
It's brutal. It's brutal to watch. So much of the army supply of HeroMarine is literally just in medevacs now as well. It is almost deceptive, the fact that HeroMarine has an even-ish supply with Serral. But Serral, he does still have that low hit point hatchery. He has still been losing those hatcheries constantly over and over and over again. I think it's finally been actually, you know, healed up a little bit. And I think you're actually showing me right now that, yes, Gabe has in fact also been floating over his command centers for his bases. For a fourth base, this is not the ideal economic spot for either of them.
No, and the thing that is keeping HeroMarine in this game, we're talking like it's over. It's absolutely not.
Yeah.
The thing that's keeping HeroMarine in this game is that he has been sniping bases. That base on the top left that is alive now with like 250 HP, that goes down if it's not for the upgrade advantage that Serral has and the adrenal glands. It's those things combined. It was at 94 HP, maybe even 1 or 2 hit points lower. And you add a couple extra seconds of those Marines being alive. It's a completely different story. We are going to see this base on the top left being protected. Meanwhile, the main push towards the now 5th base attempt of Serral is going to be sieged for the 5th time this game?
I was going to say, like, are you saying 5th base because this is 5th attempt or 5th time trying to take this base? Either way, it looks like Serral is going to be able to clean up the forces at the front lines. Blind Cloud's also coming down on top of these siege tanks as well. Ling swarming on forward, and Marines just falling so quickly in numbers. It looks like this is going to be a cleanup here for Serral, but his supply is actually on the relatively low side. Reinforcements coming in here for HeroMarine. Are they going to be able to turn the tide of things?
Yeah, there's nothing to protect those Ravagers right now, and those Ravagers do not have +1 missile. They are on 0-3, which is a really funny upgrade situation for them. Snipe on the base. Nice Corrosive Owl takes down the Widowmine, but these units will stand and fight for the moment. It's 2-2 for Big Gabe still, but on the other side of the map, that SCV line at the 3rd getting absolutely gutted by a small Ling run by, and those Cracklings are feasting.
They are doing so phenomenal right now, killing additional workers here, even pulling all these SCVs off of fighting. 3-2 Lings. Do not go down easily to those SCVs. The SCVs are doing 2 damage attack.
Yeah, and they're taking a lot of damage.
Yes, they are. This is a really brutal situation for HeroMarine. What could have turned out to be like an almost maybe okay situation. Now his economy is just not there. The Ultras are now coming on out here for Serral. He has full on Hive Tech, just missing the +3 melee upgrade at this point, but doesn't even need it. The Lings are still finding the damage they need.
Oh, and the multi-prong Ling attack coming in. We are going to see Big Gabe getting jumped by the Viper, Ravager, Ultra, and Serral from a what seemed to be unwinnable position. Stays in it, never panics, and just cleanly dismantles his opponent.
Really phenomenal play from Serral in 2 games where both of those games maybe getting caught off guard or kind of taking some extra damage in the early game, still managing to turn both of them around and turn them into wins. It really just goes to show you why he is Jonas Atala, why he is one of the GOATs of StarCraft 2, and why he is so gosh darn good and also a potential player who could win this entire event.